Dr. Sword out here with a quick screencast that will hopefully address a concern that some of you expressed in lab this week, and that concern is the hybrid format of our class possibly negatively affected your scores on Exam 1. Now the cool thing about this is this is a testable question. I obviously have data from your Exam 1 scores, and I've selected a comparison group from the section of 3530 that I taught in the fall 2012 semester. I think this is a really great comparison group because it's students who also took the course in the fall semester. The course was scheduled for the same time, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 9:30 to 10:45. The lab was at the same time, and it was basically in the same classroom. It was actually the classroom right next door in Classroom South. So I feel like we have really, really strong internal validity for this comparison. Of course, the difference being that the fall 2013 your section is a hybrid format section, both online and in class, and the fall 2012 section was a traditional section of 3530 that was mostly classroom-based, although there were some online materials. So what we're going to do is conduct a quick independent samples t-test, as you learned in our last unit. That is the appropriate test to test your research question. Our null hypothesis is that there's no difference between scores on Exam 1 across these two sections of 3530. The alternative hypothesis is that there is a difference. This is actually a directional hypothesis because you have suggested that scores in 2013 would be significantly lower. So we're actually going to do a one-tailed test. I've set the alpha at 0.05, which is standard. We have 46 degrees of freedom for this test. And the cool thing about Excel is when you do this test in Excel, it actually just spits out the p-value. So we don't actually need to go and find our critical value for this test because it will just actually give us the specific p-value for that test, and then we can just directly compare that to the alpha level. So I'm actually going to show the means across these two sections after I calculate the t-test. So if you look at the two distributions of scores, they actually look pretty similar across these two sections. A handful of people did well, A's and B's. A lot of people in the middle range, and there are quite a few low scores. So let's find out if these two sections are significantly different. So to do a t-test in Excel, equals brings up the formula. I type in t-test, and so, whoops. And open up parenthesis, so it wants array 1, that's the first group of scores, right here, and then this is all of them. And then comma, array 2, the second group of scores, so these are our scores for our section. And then comma, how many tails? Like we said, it's going to be a one-tailed test, so 1, and then comma, 2 samples equal variances. Yeah, our variances are equal, so we'll say yes. Close the parentheses and hit enter. So we have a p-value of 0.2985. So we could round that up to 0.3 if we wanted to. So we compare that to our alpha level, and our decision should be to retain the null hypothesis. Our p-value, the difference between the two means for these two groups of exams, fall 2012, fall 2013, are not significantly different. And if I scroll down a little bit, you'll see that actually the average test score for our section, our 2013 hybrid section, was a little over 2 points higher than the average test score for the traditional version of 3530 that I taught in the fall of 2012. So the idea that the hybrid format of our class is negatively affecting scores, specifically on Exam 1, isn't supported by the data. And now I understand that shifting the focus away from the hybrid format, some of the loudest voices in that room on Tuesday will probably point the finger at me and say, oh gosh, that test average 65, that's really low, that's too low, that was a bad exam, those kind of things. So I'll just go ahead and respond to that right now. So was the exam difficult? Absolutely, it's a difficult exam, but was it a bad exam? Did it not actually get at the concepts that people were supposed to learn to truly understand t-test and between and within subject design? No. I've had this exam independently evaluated by our course coordinator for 3530 and other instructors who have taught 3530, and it's pretty clear that this exam gets at the concepts that you need to learn to be successful in this course, especially moving into analysis of variance. Now, having said that, it should be some consolation to you that students in my classes score significantly better on exam number 2 compared to exam number 1. For instance, I just calculated that average for fall 2012 again, and that same class, the comparison class, scored an average of 78 points on exam 2. So, and that's for a couple reasons. One, the concepts really start to crystallize when they're presented in a different format, an analysis of variance format, because as I've said the whole semester, the concepts really remain the same from t-test to analysis of variance, so people just have a better grasp by exam 2. And frankly, exam 1 for a lot of students is a wake-up call. It tells them that I was not kidding around during our first class session when I said you need to spend at least 12 to 15 hours a week preparing and studying for this course. It is a difficult course. It is going to be the most difficult course that you've probably taken as a psychology major at Georgia State University, and that is absolutely true. What I fear is that people who maybe didn't score as well as they wanted to, which is obviously quite a few people, I'm afraid that they will point their finger at the hybrid course and say, I'm not doing as well as I would like to be doing because I'm enrolled in this hybrid version of the course. When, as I just showed you, we just did an empirical test of that, and we found that not to be the case. So what are some other things that you can be doing? You can be really taking a hard look at your study habits, taking a hard look at how you're viewing the content. As your lab instructor said, I can see exactly what you're viewing, how long you're viewing it, how often you visit it, and there is a very strong correspondence. I actually calculated a correlation, although I'm not going to take up time to show that to you. There's a correlation of 0.54 between the amount of time that people are spending watching the tutorials that I've posted on Desire to Learn and grades on Exam 1. So, and that is, of course, a significant relationship. So basically, the more time people are spending watching those videos, taking notes, the better they did on Exam 1. And the folks who did not do well and who did, frankly, very poorly, were not putting in the time is very clear when you look at those numbers, okay? So it is not due to the hybrid nature of the course that people aren't doing as well as they'd like. It's due to the way you prepare. And now, the last thing I'll say is some people, it's very clear to me from Desire to Learn, that some people, it looks as though they prepared very well. They spent a lot of time watching the tutorials. A lot of these people have come in and talked with me, and it sounds like they're doing the right things. And maybe they didn't get the grade that they wanted. And in most cases, these folks did, fairly well, but they didn't do as well as they wanted. And to you folks, I'm not saying that everyone isn't preparing. I know that some people are preparing well. And again, people do better on Exam 2. People get used to the class format, people get used to the questioning, and people get used to the concepts, okay? So, again, prepare well for Exam 2, and I am confident that people are going to do much better and be much more pleased with their grades. But if people just point their finger at the hybrid format of our course and say that they can't do anything else, you're not going to see a difference in the result on Exam 2 because you're not taking the steps to make sure that you're doing everything you can to excel in this class. All right. So please, if you have any questions about this little screencast or the concepts that you're working on for Exam 2 on Tuesday, please email me through Desire to Learn or post on our Ask Anything discussion board, and I will respond as soon as I can.